Captain Ji Wuhan stood on the bridge of the Tenacious and watched the alien ships appear in Earth's orbit. There were hundreds of them. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built. They came without warning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel like ghosts materializing from nowhere. Jiwoo had been in space for 15 years. But nothing prepared her for this moment. The communications officer turned to her with wide eyes. "Captain, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. Every language on Earth." "Put it through," Jiwoo said. Her voice stayed calm even though her heart pounded in her chest. The message was simple and cold. The Galactic Coalition had found Earth. Humanity was not welcome among the stars. They had 10 years to destroy all faster-than-light technology and return to their solar system. If they refused, Earth would be destroyed. The transmission ended without room for discussion or debate. Down on Earth, Admiral Taman Park sat in the emergency meeting with world leaders. He was an old soldier who had seen wars, but this was different. This was not a war. This was an extermination notice. The holographic display showed the alien fleet hanging in space like a sword over humanity's throat. "What are our options?" asked the Secretary General. "We have none," Taman said bluntly. "Our weapons can't touch them. Their shields are too strong. One of their ships could destroy our entire fleet." "Then we comply," said another leader. "For how long?" Taman replied. "What happens when they decide we're still a threat? What happens to our children, our future?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. Ambassador Yuna Lee arrived at the Coalition station 3 days later. She was a diplomat who had negotiated peace treaties and trade deals across Earth. Now she faced something entirely different. The station was massive, floating in space beyond the moon. When she entered the main chamber, she saw them for the first time. The Coalition representatives were nothing like humans. They were tall and thin, with large eyes that sat on the sides of their heads. Their movements were quick and nervous. They reminded Yuna of deer or rabbits, always watching, always ready to run. There were 12 different species in the chamber, and all of them had that same quality. They looked like prey animals. The leader called himself Velmacron. He spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound mechanical and flat. "Your species is dangerous," Velmacron said. "You are predators. We have studied your history. You hunt, you kill for food. You have eyes that face forward to track prey." Yuna kept her face neutral. "We are intelligent beings. We have moved beyond our base instincts." "No," another alien said, stepping forward. "You make war like hunters. You use ambush and deception. You plan attacks in groups. Every species in this coalition evolved as prey. We understand cooperation through fear of predators. You cooperate to be better predators." "That's not fair," Yuna protested. "Humanity has created art, music, philosophy. We have compassion and love." "Wolves also love their pack," Velmacron said. "That does not make them safe to other species. We have seen 46 intelligent species rise to the stars. All of them were prey species. You are the first predator species we have encountered. You are the first species we have had to contain." Yuna returned to Earth with recordings of everything. She met with Admiral Taman and Giwu, who had docked her ship at the lunar base. They watched the videos together in a secure room. "They're terrified of us," Giwu said quietly. "Did you see how they moved? They flinch at loud sounds. They stand far apart so they can all watch for threats. Can we use that?" Taman asked. "They outnumber us 1,000 to 1, Yuna replied. "Fear makes them cautious, not weak." Dr. Haewon Choi entered the room carrying data tablets. She was the head of xenobiology, the scientist who had studied every second of footage from the first contact. "I've analyzed their behavior patterns," she said. "Admiral Taman is right to ask. They think like prey because they are prey. Every tactical decision they make is based on prey animal instincts." "Explain," Taman said. "They fight in large groups for safety. They don't pursue enemies who retreat. They defend fixed positions instead of attacking. Their entire military doctrine is about survival, not victory." Haewon pulled up tactical displays. In every war they fought against each other, both sides retreat when casualties reach 15%. They don't understand the concept of pressing an advantage. Giwu leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying they've never faced a predator in space. They don't know how we think. They don't know how we hunt. Taman stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. They gave us 10 years. They think we'll spend that time afraid, hoping they'll show mercy. He turned back to the others. But that's not what predators do when cornered, is it? No, Jiwoo said. Predators wait. Predators watch. Predators learn everything about their prey before they strike. Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. You're talking about war. You're talking about extermination, Taman corrected. We're talking about survival. There's a difference. Over the next weeks, a plan began to form. The coalition would watch Earth, expecting compliance. They would see humanity dismantle their FTL ships, destroy their weapons, and retreat. But humans had survived on Earth by being the best hunters the planet had ever produced. They survived by being patient, by working together, by never giving up. G-Wu looked at the alien ships in orbit through her viewport. They hung there like sentinels, confident in their power. They had no idea what they had awakened. Humanity had spent millions of years at the top of the food chain. They had hunted animals faster, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. They had survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more determined. The aliens had given humanity a warning. They thought fear would make humans comply. But fear had never stopped a hunter before. Fear just made the hunt more careful. 8 years had passed since the coalition delivered their ultimatum. To anyone watching from orbit, Earth appeared to comply. The massive shipyards around Mars were dismantled piece by piece. The FTL test facility on Europa was shut down. Humanity broadcast messages of peace and acceptance. The coalition reduced their watching fleet from 300 ships to just 50. They believed the threat was contained. Commander Suho Kong floated in the darkness of the Oort cloud, billions of miles from Earth's sun. Out here, at the edge of the solar system, the stars were sharp and bright. His ship, the Silent Promise, was one of 40 vessels in the Ghost Fleet. They were built from materials mined from asteroids, assembled in the cold and dark where no coalition sensors could detect them. How many more do we need? Asked his second officer, Lieutenant Mina Kwan. Command wants 60 combat ships before we're ready, Suho replied. We have 2 years left. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's secret. While Earth dismantled visible infrastructure, they built an invisible navy in the outer darkness. Each ship was coated in materials that absorbed sensor waves. They ran on cold fusion reactors that produced almost no heat signature. When powered down, they were invisible against the background of space. On Earth, Dr. Bora Kim worked in a laboratory deep under the Korean peninsula. She was developing weapons that the coalition had never imagined. Her team studied predator and prey behavior in Earth's animals, translating those lessons into military technology. Prey animals bunch together when threatened, she explained to Admiral Taman during his inspection visit. They think numbers mean safety. So we designed cluster munitions that get more effective against group targets.
How this?
She brought up another display. Prey animals run in predictable patterns. They retreat to defensive positions. So we developed missiles that learn movement patterns and predict where targets will be, not where they are. What about their shields? Taman asked. Prey animals have hard shells or thick skin, but they protect their whole body the same way.
Aura smiled.
We developed weapons that probe shields, find the weakest point, and concentrate all their energy there. It's like a predator testing different spots until it finds where to bite. Taman nodded slowly. You're teaching our weapons to hunt, exactly, far from Earth. Colonel Hyan Wuxin and his special operations team drifted through space in a modified stealth ship. They had spent 3 years infiltrating coalition monitoring stations, not by force, but by patience. They would drift close, stay silent for weeks, plant listening devices when the stations were least alert. The intelligence they gathered was priceless. Coalition ships followed predictable routes. Their patrols never varied. Their communications were encrypted, but the encryption never changed. The prey species had grown comfortable in their dominance. They had forgotten that comfort makes prey vulnerable. It's like they want to be hunted, said Sergeant Kyung-Soo-Han, reviewing patrol patterns. Same routes, same times, every single day. They've never needed to hide, Hyeon-woo replied. No one has ever hunted them before. Back on Earth, Commander Yoon Ji-song ran the Intelligence Analysis Division. Her team studied every piece of data from Hyeon-woo's operations. They built maps of coalition space, identifying supply routes, military bases, and communication hubs. They learned how coalition fleets moved, how they communicated, and how they thought. They always retreat to strongholds when threatened, Yeonji briefed the command staff. They never chase. They never ambush. They fight in open space where they can see threats coming from any direction. So we don't fight in open space, Gu said. She was now an admiral, commanding the growing Ghost Fleet. We fight in asteroid fields and nebulas, anywhere they can't see clearly. They also rely completely on their sensors, Yoonji continued. If they can't detect you, they assume you're not there. They don't post guards or maintain watch. Their entire security doctrine is based on technology, not instinct. Admiral Taemin studied the star maps. How many worlds do they have? 243, Yoonji replied. But most are lightly defended. They concentrate their military at their homeworlds and capital stations. They think strength in numbers at central locations keeps them safe. Just like a herd protecting the center, Dr. Haewon Choi added. She had joined the military planning committee. But that means their edges are vulnerable. The plan took shape slowly, carefully. Humanity would not defend Earth. Defense was what prey did. Instead, they would attack. They would strike across coalition space simultaneously, hitting supply lines and isolated outposts. They would force the coalition fleet at Earth to choose between destroying Earth or defending their own worlds, in the hidden shipyards of the Oort Cloud. Captain Young Seekbeek oversaw the training of combat crews. He was a veteran pilot who had studied every battle in human history. Now he taught his crews to fight like wolves, not soldiers. We don't line up and trade shots, he told his squadron. We strike from concealment. We hit them where they're weak, and we disappear before they can respond. Make them afraid to patrol. Make them afraid to be alone. His pilots trained in simulations that recreated coalition tactics. They learned to exploit every weakness. Prey species instinctively turned away from threats. So human weapons approached from the direction prey would turn toward. Prey species grouped together for safety. So human ships targeted the densest parts of formations. Prey species fled to protected positions. So human forces learned to position themselves along retreat routes. By year 9, Ghost Fleet had 58 combat vessels and 12 support ships. The crews were trained. The weapons were tested. The intelligence was complete. Humanity knew more about the Coalition than the Coalition knew about themselves. Jiwoo floated in the command center of her flagship, the Nightfall. Around her, holographic displays showed the entire Coalition space. Red markers indicated targets. Blue lines showed attack routes. Green dots represented Ghost Fleet ships, hidden and waiting. They think they've won, she said to Suho, who now served as her fleet coordinator. They think we're contained. That's what prey always thinks, Suho replied. Right up until the predator strikes. One more year, Giwoo said. One more year of watching. Then we show them what it means to be hunted. On Earth, people live their lives not knowing that war was coming. But in the darkness of space, in hidden bases and secret facilities, humanity prepared. They had spent 8 years learning, building, and planning. The Coalition had given them time to be afraid. Instead, they used that time to become dangerous. Admiral Taemin looked at the countdown clock in his office. 365 days remained. Then the Coalition would return to verify Earth's compliance. Then they would deliver their final judgment. But this time, humanity would be ready with a judgment of their own. Year 10 arrived with the Coalition fleet emerging from FTL in Earth's orbit. They came with 200 warships, 10 times more than they had maintained during the observation period. The message was clear. This was not a visit. This was enforcement. High Arbiter Velmacrin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Sanctuary. He looked at Earth through the viewport and felt the familiar fear that came with facing a predator world. 10 years ago, he had hoped the humans would understand. He had hoped they would accept their place. But predators never accepted cages willingly. "Send the inspection teams," he ordered. "I want verification that all FTL technology has been destroyed." Ambassador Unilee met the inspection teams at the diplomatic station above Earth. She had aged in 10 years. Her hair showed gray now, and lines marked her face, but her eyes remained sharp. She guided the Coalition inspectors through the remains of human space infrastructure with practiced patience. "As you can see, the Mars shipyards are completely dismantled," she explained, showing them the empty orbital space where humanity's pride had once floated. The FTL research facility on Europa was deconstructed 3 years ago. All the parts were cataloged and destroyed. The inspectors checked their scanners and took readings. Everything appeared correct. Earth had complied, but Commander Yoonji Song watched from a hidden facility on Earth's moon. She monitored every scan the inspectors made, every data packet they transmitted back to Velmacrin's ship, and she intercepted something the Coalition thought was encrypted too well for humans to break. "Admiral Tamin," she said over the secure channel, "you need to see this." In his underground command center, Tamin reviewed the decrypted message. His face remained calm, but his hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. The message was from Coalition High Command to Velmacrin. The words were clear. Whether Earth complied or not, humanity was to be eliminated. The Coalition had decided that predator species were too dangerous to exist. "They were always going to kill us," Tamin said quietly. "The inspection is just for show," Yoonji confirmed. "They want to verify we're helpless before they strike." Velmacrin has orders to evacuate any humans willing to live under Coalition control, then sterilize the planet. "How long do we have?" The message says 30 days. "They'll give us time to evacuate, to show the other Coalition species that they were merciful. Then Earth burns." Damon activated the emergency channel that reached Jiwoo in the Oort cloud. "Operation Nightfall is authorized. Execute when ready." Far from Earth, Jiwoo received the authorization code she had waited 10 years to hear. Around her, the Ghost Fleet powered up their systems for the first time in full combat readiness. 58 warships that the Coalition did not know existed came to life in the darkness. "All ships, this is Admiral Han," she broadcast on the fleet channel. "We've received the authorization. The Coalition plans to destroy Earth, regardless of our compliance. We will not let that happen. We will show them what it means to hunt humanity." Suho brought up the tactical display. Red markers appeared across Coalition space, highlighting targets they had selected over years of careful planning. Supply depots, communication hubs, isolated military outposts. Not civilian targets, not homeworlds, but the infrastructure that kept the Coalition running. 60 targets across 40 different systems, Suho reported. Each target has a hunter group assigned. "We strike simultaneously in 72 hours. Make sure every ship commander understands," Jiwoo said. "We are not invaders. We are not conquerors. We are survivors showing the galaxy that you don't corner a predator and expect to walk away." On Earth, Velmacrin delivered his final message to humanity. The transmission played on every screen, every device across the planet. His translated voice carried a tone that might have been regret. "Humanity, we gave you a chance to live peacefully within your solar system. Our inspectors have confirmed your compliance with the treaty. However, the Coalition Council has concluded that predator species cannot be trusted, even in containment. You will have 30 days to evacuate any volunteers to Coalition worlds, where they will live under supervision. After 30 days, Earth will be cleansed to prevent your species from rising again. This is our final warning." The transmission ended. Earth fell silent. People looked at the sky where the Coalition fleet hung like a death sentence. They did not know about the Ghost Fleet. They did not know about the secret weapons. They did not know that humanity had prepared for this moment, but in government buildings across the world, leaders activated emergency plans. Shelters opened. Defense systems powered up, not to fight the Coalition, but to survive long enough for the real battle to begin. Admiral Tommen addressed the people of Earth with a message that was broadcast globally. Citizens of Earth, you have heard the Coalition's judgment. They believe we are too dangerous to exist. They are correct. We are dangerous. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We are the species that turned wolves into dogs and learned to fly. We are the species that reached for the stars, even when told to stay down. The Coalition fears us because they have never faced a predator. They are about to learn why fear exists. Take shelter. Protect your families. And know that we do not surrender. Not today. Not ever. In orbit, Velmacrin received reports from his sensor teams. No unusual activity detected on Earth or in near space. Human military forces are standing down. No aggressive posturing. They're giving up, one of his officers said. The predators know when they're beaten. But Velmacrin felt uneasy. He had studied human history. He knew their wars. Humans did not surrender easily. Increase patrols. I want full sensor sweeps of the solar system every hour. It will drain our power reserves, the tactical officer protested. Do it anyway, Velmacrin ordered. Something felt wrong. In nature, predators often went still before they attacked. They became quiet. They appeared to submit. Then they struck from the shadows. Guo watched the countdown clock in her command center. 72 hours until Operation Nightfall began. Around her, the Ghost Fleet moved into position, slipping through space on courses calculated to avoid Coalition patrols. They had practiced this. They had planned every detail. Now it was time to show the Coalition. The humans had not spent 10 years afraid. They had spent 10 years hunting, Captain. Gyung-Sik Beek checked his squadron one final time. They were designated Hunter Group Alpha, assigned to strike Coalition logistics bases in the Kepler sector. 12 ships against 4 lightly defended bases. The Coalition kept minimal security there because they believed no threat existed. Remember your training, Young-Sik told his pilots. We don't fight fair. We don't announce ourselves. We strike hard, strike fast, and disappear. Make them afraid of the dark. The hunters were moving into position. The prey had no idea death was coming. And in 72 hours, the galaxy would learn that humanity had never been contained. They had been patient, and patience was what made hunters successful. The first strikes happened simultaneously across 58 Coalition systems. The prey species had never experienced anything like it. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next moment, human ships appeared from nowhere. Weapons firing with precision that seemed impossible. Captain Young-Sik led Hunter Group Alpha through an asteroid field in the Kepler sector. His 12 ships moved silently between the rocks, invisible to Coalition sensors. Below them, a supply depot orbited a gas giant. The depot held fuel and ammunition for 20 Coalition patrol groups. It was defended by 6 light cruisers. Crews relaxed after years without threat. All ships, weapons free, Young-Sik ordered. Target their communication arrays first. Don't let them call for help. The human ships dropped from the asteroid field like stones. Their first missiles struck the depot's communication towers before the Coalition crews even realized they were under attack. The second wave hit the cruiser engines, crippling them before they could maneuver. The third wave destroyed the depot's fuel storage, creating a bloom of fire that lit up the night. Young-Sik's squadron disappeared. Back into the asteroid field before Coalition reinforcements could arrive. The whole attack lasted 8 minutes. The Coalition lost a major supply point and 6 ships. Hunter Group Alpha suffered 0 casualties. 1 down, Young-Sik reported to Fleet Command. Moving to Target 2, across Coalition space, similar scenes played out. Human ships struck from nebulas, from behind moons, from inside debris fields. They hit communication stations, supply routes, and isolated outposts. Each attack was quick and precise. Each attack ended with human ships vanishing before reinforcements arrived. Captain. Narration coordinated the attacks from her command ship, the Shadow Walker. She monitored 60 different strike groups, adjusting tactics in real time. When Coalition forces tried to reinforce a target, she warned the hunter groups to withdraw. When defenses weakened elsewhere, she redirected ships to exploit the opening. "They're pulling ships from the border sectors to protect their supply lines," she reported to Giwu. "Just like we predicted. Prey animals protect the center of the herd," Giwu replied. "That leaves their outer colonies vulnerable. Send hunter groups 7 through 12 to hit the mining stations in the Rim territories." In Coalition space, panic spread. Ships that had patrolled safely for decades suddenly found themselves under attack. Bases that had never needed heavy defenses were destroyed. Supply convoys started disappearing without distress signals, without warning, without survivors. On his flagship near Earth, Velmacron received reports that made no sense. Attacks were happening everywhere at once. Human ships appeared from nowhere and vanished like ghosts. Coalition sensors couldn't track them. Coalition weapons couldn't target them. And worst of all, the humans fought like nothing the Coalition had ever encountered. "They don't fight in formations," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "They don't hold territory. They strike and retreat. It's not warfare. It's hunting," Velmacron finished quietly. "They're hunting us." He tried to organize a response, but every decision made things worse. When he sent reinforcements to defend supply lines, humans attacked the bases those ships came from. When he ordered fleets to stay in defensive positions, humans destroyed the supply convoys trying to reach them. The Coalition military doctrine had no answer for this kind of warfare. Commander Jasung Ru led the boarding teams that terrified Coalition crews most. His teams didn't try to capture ships in open combat. Instead, they waited until Coalition vessels were damaged and drifting. Then they would dock quietly, cut through the hole, and enter. His latest mission targeted a Coalition destroyer that Hunter Group 4 had crippled. The ship was waiting for rescue. Engines dead, weapons offline. Jae-sung's team cut through the airlock with plasma torches and entered in darkness. The Coalition crew had retreated to the bridge, sealing themselves in. They had weapons ready, expecting a frontal assault. But Jae-sung's team didn't attack the bridge. They went to engineering instead. They accessed the computer systems. They downloaded every encrypted file, every tactical database, every communication log. Then they left as quietly as they came. By the time rescue ships arrived, the crew was unharmed, but the Coalition had lost intelligence worth more than the destroyer itself. "Predators study their prey," Jae-sung explained to his team. "Every encounter teaches us more about how they think, how they react, where they're weak." The psychological impact of the attack spread faster than the physical damage. Coalition species had lived for centuries without fear. They had built their civilization on the assumption that they were safe. Now that safety was shattered, patrol ships requested additional escorts. Colonies demanded military protection. Civilian ships refused to travel without armed guards. The Coalition was learning what it meant to be prey. On Earth, Admiral Taman watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The Coalition fleet in Earth's orbit was receiving distress calls from dozens of worlds. Velmacron faced an impossible choice. Stay at Earth and watch his civilization bleed, or leave Earth to defend his people and let humanity escape. "They're moving," Yeonji reported. 30 ships just broke orbit. "They're heading back to Coalition space. Let them go," Taman ordered. "The longer Velmacron stays here, the more we hurt them out there." But Velmacron wasn't leaving. He reduced his forces at Earth to 100 ships and sent the rest to defend Coalition territory. He believed 100 warships were more than enough to contain Earth if humans tried anything. He still didn't understand that the humans at Earth were not the threat. The Ghost Fleet, invisible and scattered across his territory, was the real danger. Day 7 of Operation Nightfall saw the tempo of attacks increase. Human ships hit targets deeper in Coalition space, striking at secondary military installations. They destroyed sensor networks that helped Coalition fleets coordinate. They disabled communication relays that carried strategic orders. Each attack made it harder for the Coalition to respond to the next dot. Captain Youngsik's squadron struck their 5th target, a repair facility in the Deneb sector. The facility serviced Coalition warships, and destroying it meant damaged vessels would take months longer to return to service. His ships came in fast, weapons blazing, and were gone before defense forces could even power up their shields. "Target destroyed," he reported. "0 casualties. Enemy response time continues to increase. They're getting slower, because they're afraid," Giwu replied over the command channel. "Afraid crews make mistakes. They hesitate. They say, we're not just destroying their bases, we're destroying their confidence." By day 10, Coalition leadership held an emergency council meeting. Representatives from 200 worlds demanded answers. Why couldn't their military stop the humans? Why were their defenses failing? Why did the humans seem to know where every weakness was? Velmacron had no good answers. The truth was simple, but unacceptable. The Coalition had never fought predators before. Their entire military strategy was designed for conflicts between prey species, where both sides retreated when losses mounted. Humans didn't retreat. They pressed harder when the Coalition showed weakness, and the Coalition was showing a lot of weakness on Earth. People emerged from shelters and looked at the sky. The Coalition fleet still hung there, weapons aimed at the planet. But everyone could tell something had changed. The alien ships seemed less confident. Their formations were tighter. They looked defensive. They looked afraid. Admiral Taman prepared the final phase of Operation Nightfall. For 15 days, the Ghost Fleet had struck across Coalition space, hitting infrastructure and supply lines. Now it was time to bring them home. Time to show Velmacron that Earth was not defenseless. Time to prove that the hunters were done hiding. Day 30 arrived with the Ghost Fleet returning to Earth. They came from every direction, dropping out of FTL in perfect coordination. One moment, Velmacron's sensors showed empty space. The next moment, 70 human warships surrounded his fleet in a sphere of steel and weapons. On the bridge of the Eternal Sanctuary, alarms screamed. Officers shouted reports that contradicted everything the Coalition believed. Humans had no fleet. Humans had complied. Humans were defenseless. But the sensors showed the truth. 70 warships hung in space around them. Weapons charged, shields active. Where did they come from? Velmacron demanded. "Unknown High Arbiter," his tactical officer replied. "They just appeared. All at once. We had no warning." "How long have they been out there?" "Based on their positions, they've been waiting for hours. Maybe days. Our sensors never detected them." Velmacron understood then. The attacks across Coalition space, the raids on supply lines, the destruction of outposts. That wasn't the human fleet. That was something else. Something worse. The humans had 2 fleets. One to attack their territory. One to defend Earth, and the Coalition had known about neither. "We've been hunted," he said quietly. Admiral Giwu stood on the bridge of the Nightfall. Looking at the Coalition fleet trapped inside the human formation, her ships outnumbered them. Her weapons were better. Her crews were ready. But she didn't order an attack. Instead, she opened a communication channel. "High Arbiter, Velmacron. This is Admiral Jiwoo Han, of Earth Defense Forces. You came here to verify our compliance and deliver your final judgment. Now we will deliver ours." On Earth, Admiral Taman activated displays in every city, every shelter, every device. People across the planet watched as the scene in orbit played out. They saw the human fleet surrounding the aliens who had threatened them. They saw their defenders, hidden for 10 years, finally revealed. Velmacron appeared on GU's screen. He looked tired, defeated. "You want us to surrender?" Jiwoo replied. "We want you to listen. 10 years ago, you came to Earth and gave us an ultimatum. You feared us because we're predators. You were right to fear us. But you were wrong about what that fear should teach you." She gestured to tactical displays. "For 15 days, we have struck across your territory. We destroyed 63 supply bases, 72 communication stations, and 41 repair facilities. We disabled your logistics network. We cut your supply lines. We left your fleet scattered and unable to coordinate." "You're proving our point," Velmacron interrupted. "Predators are dangerous. Could have killed millions," Gu continued calmly. "Every target we hit was military or infrastructure. We didn't touch your colonies. We didn't attack civilian ships. We didn't target your homeworlds. We fought a war to prove a point, not to commit genocide. Can you say the same? Vel Macron fell silent. You came here to sterilize Earth, Jiwoo said. To kill 10 billion humans because you were afraid of what we might do. We attacked your military to show what we can do. There's a difference. Fleet Admiral Taman joined the communication from Earth. His face appeared on screens across both fleets. Hi, Arbiter. Humanity didn't want this war. We spent 10 years hoping for another way. But your own communication proved you were always going to kill us. So we prepared. We built ships you couldn't detect. We trained crews you couldn't predict. We learned everything about how you think, how you fight, and where you're vulnerable. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. We are predators. You were right about that. But predators don't kill everything they see. Predators hunt to survive. Predators can choose restraint. That's what separates intelligence from instinct. Captain Narration transmitted tactical data to the Coalition flagship. We're sending you complete records of every operation we conducted. Every target we hit, every target we deliberately avoided. You'll see that we knew where your civilians were. We knew where your colonies were vulnerable. We knew where your leaders lived. And we chose not to strike them. The data flooded into Coalition systems. Analysts reviewed it in real time, and the truth became clear. Humans had mapped every Coalition world. They knew where the schools were, where the hospitals were, where the civilians gathered. They had weapons capable of devastating those targets, and they had deliberately chosen not to use them. You're showing mercy, Vel Macron said, and his voice carried something like wonder. We're showing that predators aren't monsters, Jiwoo replied. We're showing that being dangerous and being evil are not the same thing. You wanted to exterminate us because you feared what we might become. We're showing you what we chose to be instead. Ambassador Yunali appeared on the communication channel. She had been silent for 10 years, watching humanity prepare for war while maintaining the appearance of peace. Now she spoke as Earth's voice to the galaxy. The Coalition is built on species who evolved as prey. You understand cooperation through shared fear. You think safety comes from eliminating threats, but that's not the only way. Humans evolved as predators, yes. But we also evolved to work together, to protect the weak, to show mercy when we have the advantage. Our history is full of war, but it's also full of peace. We are capable of both. She looked directly at Vel Macron. You gave us a choice 10 years ago, comply or die. Now we give you a choice. Accept us as equals in the Coalition, or fight a war you cannot win. We don't want to destroy you. We want to join you, but we will never accept being caged or controlled. Across Coalition space, the attacks had stopped. Human ships held their positions but didn't fire. The Ghost Fleet surrounded Earth but waited. Humanity had proven they could hurt the Coalition. Now they proved they could choose not to. Vel Macron looked at his tactical displays. His fleet was surrounded. His territory was vulnerable. His people were afraid, but no one was dying. The humans had them at their mercy and were offering peace. Why? He asked. Why show mercy to an enemy who showed you none? Because we're not trying to prove we're better killers, Admiral Taman replied. We're trying to prove we're better than our worst instincts. Every species has darkness in them. Prey species can be cruel when they feel safe. Predator species can be savage when threatened. Intelligence means choosing not to give in to those instincts. Captain Young Seek Beaks, squadron arrived from their last mission. Sliding into formation with the Ghost Fleet, he looked at Earth below, green and blue and beautiful. 15 days ago, he had left to make war. Now he returned to make peace. His weapons were still charged, but his trigger finger was steady. We didn't hunt them to extinction, he said to his crew. We hunted them to understanding. Vel Macron made his decision. I need to consult with Coalition leadership. Take your time, Jiwoo said. But know this. Every hour you consider, human ships remain in your territory. Every day you delay, your people wonder if their defenses can stop us. We've shown we can strike anywhere. We've shown we can disappear. We've shown we can fight a war across your entire civilization. And we've shown we can choose not to. The question is whether you're wise enough to see that choice as strength, not weakness." The communication ended. In orbit around Earth, 2 fleets waited. One fleet belonged to prey species who had tried to eliminate a threat. The other fleet belonged to predators who had proven they were always the hunters, but chose when and how to hunt. On Earth, people emerged into sunlight. They looked at the sky where their defenders waited. For 10 years, they had lived in fear of extinction. They had not known about the Ghost Fleet, the secret weapons, the careful plans. Now they knew. Humanity had not spent those years cowering. They had spent them preparing. Admiral Taman stood in the command center. Looking at status reports from across the solar system, every ship was ready. Every weapon was charged. Every crew was trained. But he hoped they wouldn't need to fight anymore, because the point had been made. "We were always the hunters," he said to Jiwoo over the command channel. "But we proved something more important. We proved we could be trusted with that power. We've proved we hunt only when necessary. And we proved that mercy from a predator means more than mercy from prey." 3 days later, the Coalition Council transmitted their response. They accepted Earth's terms. Humanity would join the Coalition as equal members. The Ghost Fleet would be recognized as legitimate defense forces. And the Coalition would change their doctrine to accept that predator species, guided by intelligence and choice, could be partners rather than threats. The galaxy learned a lesson that day. Predators weren't the danger. Fear of predators was the danger. And the species that learned to control their instincts, whether prey or predator, were the ones who deserved to reach the stars. Earth celebrated. The Coalition fleet left orbit peacefully, and in the darkness of space, the Ghost Fleet began patrols of their new territory. They were hunters. They would always be hunters. But now they hunted to protect, not to destroy. They had proven to the galaxy that humanity deserved their place among the stars, not because they were harmless, but because they chose to be better than their nature allowed.